Hi, you guys. I'm here with Teri Lesesne, otherwise known as Professor Nana, the author of Reading Ladders, Reading Naked? Naked Reading.
Naked Reading.
I always knew it had naked in the title. But my favorite for sure was Reading Ladders because it taught me to think about complexity in an entirely different way. And it was I remember when I read it, and it was an easy, as in not too long.
Absolutely.
Read, but it was profound the way it changed my thinking. So I walked in my classroom and I said to my students, I've got this idea, Teri's idea, they don't need to know that, that we're going to look at if you want to read Dracula, and right now you're reading Twilight, what are the books that might go in between to get you to a more complex text in the same idea? And we created this really kind of elaborate tree across the back of my classroom that was all done by kids. And if you want to read more complex fantasy, start here, go here, go here. And they'd write them on a slip of paper, and sometimes we'd move them after they got on the ladder. Yeah. Because they were kind of arguing among themselves. But that was thinking I had never done. So I've always admired you for that.
The thinking came from, as I say in the book, from having ladders all over my house when we were doing remodeling. And I thought, ladders, how we build things, how do we build readers? And I really started thinking in a different direction, because usually before then, I gave them all the steps to where they were going. So if you're going to start here, and then you're going to go here, here, here. So there was no choice. There was no need for them to have interest. I was just going to take them from point A to point B. And that was so just
interesting. It's also like the over scaffolding that I'm kind of obsessed with right now that we're doing with kids. That's some of what I've been thinking about, right?
Yeah, Donald Miller says scaffolding is fine, but eventually the scaffolding comes down from the building. So be careful that you're not building that scaffolding so strong that the building goes away before the scaffolding does. And it really made me think a little bit about giving them a different way to scaffold their own ideas.
Yeah, that's what I saw at Unleash. I just loved it. So what I wanted to think about with you was how do we build a diverse library? All these teachers want to improve independence of kids. So what do you advise?
Well, I started making a list Monday, when we were talking a little bit about that, because I know you guys know we need diverse books already. So I started with that. People are walking past and just saying hi. So, I know that that's a good place to go, is we need diverse books. But before that existed, there were other resources that we could use. The Coretta Scott King Award, which goes to an African-American author and illustrator. The Put a Belpre, which goes to an Hispanic author or illustrator. Now we've got the Stonewall, which goes to LGBTQ. And we're seeing more and more and more of these little small groups popping up saying, we want to give people a good resource list, because if you're just picking it on your own, there's not always a guarantee that you're getting something that presents whatever you want to study. Let's just say African Americans, that presents African Americans in a way other than we were slaves once. And I've heard lots of people say, could we have, just some good books where kids are African American just because they're African American, or gay just because they're gay?
So I think of The Season of Styx Malone, right? They're all just good buddies.
Book. Yeah,
love that book.
Yeah,
but it's not a thing. It's just who they are.
That's right. We're not going to go into lunch counters and do stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. We need those too, because who was it saying the other day on TV that kids didn't know about Jim Crow? One of the guys running, Cory Booker, running for president, he said, we got kids who don't know what Jim Crow laws were. And I sat there thinking, you're right, so we still need those, but we need to get beyond them. So
Right. I read the new Jim Crow in this last year, which is a powerful book. So and I'm always one that advocates we should go to award-winning titles, which I think helps us alleviate some of the pressure from parents over why is my kid reading this book? Well, there are awards for great literature, the Prince Awards, the Allen Awards, the ALA Awards. There's all kinds of awards. But also, as you build a diverse library, you're thinking about all kinds of things that make it diverse. What would you say one of those is?
Well, I'll come back to the award list and I'll say, if you've got an author who's on that award list twice, 3, 4 times, Christopher Paul Curtis, Virginia Hamilton, those kind of folks, that look at those authors and maybe kind of do a ladder with those authors. But in terms of building the diverse list, it's so hard for me to make sure that books about Hispanics are accurately portraying Hispanics, because I'm not one. So I tend to look at Puerto Belpré, but I also look to Laura Jimenez online. I look to Meg Medina online. There's a blog called Reading While White, which has a lot of, it bothers me a little because I am reading while white, but it gives you a lot of information about what we should be looking for that would be a stereotype we need to drop. And sometimes I don't see it because I'm reading while I'm white.
Yeah.
And I just think, oh, okay, that's the way it was, and move on. So I look for people who were really engaged in this kind of scholarship, Ebony Elizabeth Thomas, I have to say her name slowly because it's 3, just finished a book called Black Magic, and it's about the roots of fantasy in African American.
It has the coolest cover.
It does, and she is such a scholar that I can't wait to read it to see what I don't know.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's a lot of it.
Yeah,
because think about not just having more fantasy and sci-fi to hand kids, but to hand that the diversity as well.
Absolutely.
That I probably didn't know.
You know, when you said more than one book on an award list, I always think of Jesmyn Ward, because Salvage the Bones and then Sing Unburied Sing, 2 National Book Award winning books, one author. Why isn't she in American literature curriculum?
I
Just
don't know.
incredible.
Because
incredible
she's
writer.
not been dead for a long time,
I guess.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're going to do better, right?
I hope so.
So 5 books that you've read this year that you loved.
Probably ones that everybody else loved as well. The Poet X just finished winning the Guardian Award in England.
Did you see the Carnegie Medal? And they said
it was the Carnegie. That's right, it
83-year history
that Americans have not won it, let alone
African American one.
And
but she's Dominican.
I read that book a long time ago and just thought, look, it's a lovely book, a novel in verse. You've got me already.
Yes.
Page 1.
Yes.
But then it wins all of these awards, and there's just no way you can go wrong there. So I absolutely adore that book, and I have her second one in advanced reader copy. I've not touched it yet because I'm afraid that I'll delve deep and not get
I got
out
one
of it.
too. I'm reading it.
So I will. And Angie Thomas's second book, she did The Hate You Give, but her second book is stronger.
On the come up.
On the come up. And I told her, I said, shame on you, because I left that book singing everything. I can't rap, so I wouldn't set
Did you
myself
listen
up
to
for
it
that.
on Audible?
Yeah. No, I did not. I actually read it. Is it wonderful on Audible?
It is.
I'm sure it is.
Wonderful. In fact, I told my husband, because listening to the raps, there's no way I would have made that sound in my head. It's beautiful. On the come up. Nice.
And she's another one to be looking for, because her first book won all kinds of awards. The second one's going to win all kinds of awards too. Same with.
She is a gritty, tough
Poet X.
character too. On the come up. I like it when it's not a purely heroic character.
Yeah.
You've got these moments where you're like, ooh, I don't think I would have done that.
Yeah.
I think that complexity is great.
It is wonderful. And, here I am, I'm hitting all the African-American authors, but that's because I've been wanting to expand my reading more. Meg Medina is somebody I knew, so Latinx now, is somebody that I knew of, but had not read too much of her stuff until it was, what's the name? Somebody Wants to Kick Your Ass. Wasn't it? Oh, Yaki Delgado Wants to Kick Your Ass.
I haven't read
and
that.
I thought that is such a cool title.
Yeah.
And it's about a girl that threatens to kick somebody's ass after school. They get in an argument. So it's very, very much middle school kind of book. And then, of course, she won the Newbery and a whole lot of other awards last year for Mercy Suarez Changes Gears, which, again, has a cover that I would say, it looks too young, but it's not. Kind of like Styx Malone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't choose a book by its cover.
But we all do.
But we all do. And, it's just the way it's going to be. That's 3, I think. Getting there. The other 2 would probably tend to be graphic novels, and I'm reading some really interesting ones. There was one I didn't mention yesterday that's really for adults, and we're starting to see adult graphic novels. I read one coming up called Ptsd, which is about a young girl home from war who has PTSD, and it's a futuristic society.
Yeah.
So they're all trying to hook up to drugs, find a place to sleep. It's the same things that our veterans are dealing with, but set in a future. So I thought that was good. And then the other one's called The Adventure Zone. And I started reading it, and I thought, boy, this is for older readers. And sure enough, turned it over. There's Hank Green saying, grown-ups, something like that. Grown-ups really love this one. But it's Dungeons and Dragons meets graphic novel. And I didn't grow up
Wow.
doing a lot of D&D myself.
I didn't either.
It's a younger generation that did that, but Jenny and Matt Holmes' new one on Sunny. Sunny takes the dice. Sunny rolls the dice is also D&D.
Huh.
And how D&D is
Cornelius
just
knows
for
about
boys.
these because he is a big D&D fan.
I'll have to tell them that they are. Yeah.
Huh.
So those are kind of the things I'm reading right now. I've got 20 million like everybody else does at home.
Yeah.
Stack.
But I loved how in your presentation here at Booth Bay, you mentioned Dan Brown, who is a terrific creator. Drowned City is one of my favorites, but the new one on Syrian refugees.
Yeah, it's just,
and
there's actually one after that, but I picked up The Unwanteds because I knew nothing about why we had so many Syrian refugees. I mean, I'm sorry, just blank. And so I started to read it, and it's got so much information that you walk away going, I get it. I get it a little more. Not only do I get Syrian refugees, then I get the other refugees who are at different borders waiting to get in. That helps a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have one, I think it's called Sabrina or Sabina. It was a Booker Prize runner-up, so it's world lit, and it's a graphic novel. It's on my desk. I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah, well, it's always I'll get to it.
I
promise you
know,
I will.
but that's why we're readers.
That's right.
So this was a fast pop-up Facebook Live.
It was.
I know, it goes so fast, but I really wanted people to know you and know you're here, and thanks, you guys.
I will mention that I talk an awful lot about books with my colleague Karen Perry, who you know, at a YouTube channel called Professors Providing Professional Development, and it's very informal. We talk about what is theme and how do we teach kids to find theme, and then
awesome.
we book talk new books, but we also talk about literature.
PPPD.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. On YouTube.
Awesome. Hey, one more podcast for everybody. Have you listened to What Should I Read Next?
No.
It's a podcast series. I think I listened to episode 183 the other day.
Gosh,
so it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
But they interview people and they have this back and forth and they try to predict what kind of books they could recommend that person hasn't read. Any rate, great podcast when you're hanging out.
And a good thing for teachers to know too.
Absolutely.
How do you take them from there to where you want them to go?
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
This is fun. Thank
awesome.
you, Penny.
Bye, guys.
Bye.